Never judge a rum by its colour. Welcome back, rum fans. My name's Steve the Barman, and I'm here to help you on your rum journey by mainly focusing on rums under £50. In this video, let's talk about the age of rums. Now, I see this time and time again. Many people look at the colour of rum and naturally assume that the darker it is, the older it is. Now, let's just put that theory to the test for 1 minute. Be bolshy, be brave. In the comments below, back yourselves. Which one of these do you think is the oldest rum? Numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Go on, dive in the comments right now and comment which number is the oldest rum. Now, I know some of you are automatically thinking, hey, barman, trick question. You've put these in age order. Of course you have. That's the oldest, that's the youngest. Well, I have put them in age order, sort of, but not in the order that you might be thinking. Now, before I dive into that, let's just very quickly just put one thing out of the air, because I know you're naturally thinking that the longer the rum has been in a barrel and aged, like sort of bourbon barrels, wooden barrels, the longer that rum's been in there, it's going to take in more of the characteristics of that wood. Therefore, the darker it's going to get over time. That's the obvious thing to think. Now, in a lot of cases, you are bang on the money. Of course you are. It stands to reason. It's natural science. The longer you age a rum in a cask, the longer it's going to be exposed to those wooden elements, the darker it's going to be. Fact. But not all rums are created equal. And this is where you have to be very careful and know kind of what you're looking at. Now, you see, it is actually common practice in the rum industry and in the whiskey industry and many other spirit industries as well, but it is actually common practice to use a colouring compound called E150A. Now, what that is actually caramel colour. Now, don't confuse the word caramel with sweetening, because E150A, I've never tasted it, but I have it on good authority that E150A is actually very bitter in taste. But that's assuming you have enough of it to actually get the taste, because in small amounts, it's actually pretty tasteless. Now, you might be thinking, oh, that's all right, my favourite rum brand, they don't use any of that. Well, you're probably wrong. I'm just going to say it, you're probably wrong, because even the likes of Foursquare, Appleton, and brands like that, they all use it. They have to, and for a good reason as well, because it's not a bad thing. For the rum industry, for you guys at home, for the supermarkets and all that, these brands have to produce consistent liquid year on year. And we know from different varying climates, different years, different barrels, different types of wood, that some blends of rum are just going to be a couple of shades darker than others year on year. So when you get the likes of Appleton, Dawley's, Plantation, all the big brands, Havana, every single one of the big brands, they're all going to use caramel colouring E150A to get that consistent batch on batch, year on year, because otherwise you guys at home, many of you are just going to look at that and that looks a bit different, something's wrong with it, and supermarkets are just not going to take it if you don't give them a consistent product. So how much of this E150A do brands use? And as I say, we have to come back to the likes of Plantation in here, because Plantation are one of the most open and honest brands out there, and they tell you exactly how much they use. So a lot of you might be thinking, Christ, they must put jugs and jugs of this E150A into a barrel to get it that colour. Well, no. When we're talking about the likes of Dawley's, the likes of Flor de Carnia, the likes of, what else we got, Plantation, the likes of Appleton, Plantation, we are talking negligible amounts. We are talking between 0.0 and 0.1% E150A gone into the rum. So how does that translate into relative terms? Well, let you get your heads around this. In a 70 cl bottle, 700 ml bottles, there will be literally less than 1 ml, 0.7 of a mil of E150A gone into that at the very, very most to give it consistent colour. Now, obviously, they're not going to put 0.7 of a mil into every bottle. So let's just round this up into a 200 litre cask. 200 litre cask is roughly going to be about 200,000 mil. So for every 200,000 mil, you are literally talking 200 mil of E150A at the very, very, very most. Now, I just want to clear something up because I said Foursquare. Look, every brand is going to be the same for this. Brands that do single cask releases or single blends or anything like that, they don't need consistency. They don't need to cater to the fussy people at home, because a single cask is just going to be the colour it is. So the Foursquare, the ECS series, for example, the Plantation, the Sipping, the kind of age range, they're never going to add caramel colouring. They don't need to. They don't need consistency. Whatever comes out in the barrel is there. Done, one batch, done, sold, end of story. But say like Appleton 8-year-old, say like Dawley's, where's my Dawley's stuff gone? Probably behind my backside. There we go. Say the Dawley's XO. To get that consistent year on year, batch on batch, they are going to use a tiny bit of caramel colouring, E150A, to get that consistent. So that's slightly off topic, sort of in topic, but slightly off topic. But let's dive back into these rums, because there is obviously a caveat to that as well. I asked you at the top which rum here you thought was the oldest. I'm going to tell you. Actually, right down here at this end, this is officially the oldest rum out of these 7 down there. And they're kind of, well, let's just say these 3 are older or equal to these. Okay? So you can see there that yes, some of these might have been filtered, but after 3 years, are they really going to be that colour? So let's just focus on these rums down this end. I'm going to tell you what they are now. Flor de Caña, 4-year-old. Okay, crystal clear white, crystal clear. Okay, the next one in, Dawley's, 3-year-old. A subtle sort of hue to it. And then the next one up, Havana, 3-year-old. Again, a subtle sort of creamy, grassy white hue to it. All of those 3 are older than that one, for example, okay? And that is one of my favourite dark rums. That is Rose Mullion, unaged. All right, rested for a few months, but essentially an unaged rum. Now, I love dark rums because they bring an extra dimension to those kind of fruity, tropical cocktails. They've got those extra caramel notes, those extra molasses notes, but not all the time is that derived from aging. For example, let's talk about the Rose Mullion. I know this because we've chatted to the guys a couple of times. In all open honesty, there is 12 grams of sugar in that. I don't know what goes into those, but it was 12 grams of sugar in that. There might be, 10 grams of sugar in those. I don't know, but it's 12 grams. But the key thing is here, those 12 grams of sugar, Andy and Liz down at Rose Mullion actually use a very dark sugar, and there is wood. It is rested, as I say, for about, I think it's 6 months, don't hold me to that, but it is rested. But the wood combined with that caramel colouring, the dark sugar colouring, is where the colour comes from in that rum. Now let's talk about 2 of these other rums as well. We have got, just for your own interest, we've got Myers here, and we've got Worthy 109. Now Myers is actually a blend of up to 4-year-old rums, but there's no age statement on Myers. So we know full well that there's going to be like a young rum in there, like a 1-year-old rum, maybe a 6-month-old rum in there. The same with the Worthy Park. The Worthy Park is actually a blend of rums up to 3 years old. All right. So again, we know there are some young rums in there. Now you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute. He said 3 and 4-year-old rums here. The big difference is the youngest rums in these will be 3-year-old, and there might be 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old rums in these blends. But the fact is, those 2, the youngest rums in there are 3-year-old, and the youngest rum in that is 4-year-old. Whereas the maximum age in that is 4, and the maximum age in that is 3. And you guarantee it, there are going to be some younger rums in that. Now, the exception to the 7 is this one down the end. This is actually Goslings. Now, it's really hard to find the age of the rums gone into Goslings, but I have read a blog of someone that went on the distillery tour, or the Goslings tour. It's not a distillery, they were blended, but went on the tour, and they were told that it's a blend of 3 to 6-year-old rums. So, as I say, you might have 7, 8, 10-year-old rums in these, but we know that there's 3 to 6, or allegedly 3 to 6. But again, because there's no age statement on there, it doesn't say Gosling's 3-year-old rum, I would naturally assume there is actually younger rums in there. So what I'm basically saying is, never judge a rum by its colour. If there is no physical age statement on the bottle, you're pretty much guaranteed that the youngest rum in that has been rested for 6 months or aged for a year. So when you want to look at or get yourselves a true aged rum, you've always got to be looking at which one's going to be clearer. This one, this and this is going to be clearer because they're white labels. You've always got to look for an age statement. You know full well, Appleton 8-year-old. Let's see if we get that on the close-up down there in front. You know full well, Appleton 8-year-old. The minimum aged rum in there, or the lowest aged rum in there, is 8-year-old. We know full well there's blends of 12 and other older rums in there, but it's predominantly 8-year rums in there. The same with the Dawleys. Again, it's a 12-year-old rum. The youngest rum in there is 12-year-old. What I'm saying is, if you want an aged rum, look for an age state. But that's not to discount some of these sort of darker rums, because a lot of you guys will know I flipping well love my dark rums. Not to sip neat, but I love them for mixing. You stick these darker rums in fruitier cocktails, that's when they come out to play. Or of course ginger beer.